a fantasy novel that's a murder mystery, but also Attack on Titan meets Knives Out. This is the wildest book I've read so far and such an enjoyable read, which is Robert Jackson Bennett's The Tainted Cup. So hello, my name is Zach, and on this channel it's mostly science fiction and fantasy reviews with a bit of everything in between, from comics and manga to every other genre. And coming on the hot list of book recommendations and then browsing Goodreads and seeing what they're all about, looking at the numbers, sounded interesting, adding it to the queue, and yes, I got The Tainted Cup on my radar and just finished it, and yeah, it's another favorite, easy favorite so far this year. It blew me away, honestly. So to give some additional context of how I was feeling as I was reading this, I just finished a actual murder thriller mystery, which is Uketsu's Strange Pictures, and then I immediately started this one and kind of had to pause it because after the first chapter, it sets up that, yes, this is a murder mystery, sort of Sherlock Holmes, Watson investigation style. And I was like, okay, I don't know if I want to read two murder mysteries back to back. So in between, I read Gene Wolfe's The Book of the New Sun, the first book, Shadow of the Torture, and blown away by that. Gene Wolfe's new favorite. And I went back to this because this I got through the library. So I got to finish it before the libraries do. And Robert Jackson Bennett, I would almost, definitely put him up there with Gene Wolfe, with the great writers, because this book had very similar vibes to Book of the New Sun. So if you like Book of the New Sun and the rich world building, that is one of the parts that really blew me away with Tainted Cup, that not only was this a well-crafted Sherlock Holmes Knives Out style mystery, but the world this happens in is so much bigger than the story and had this really expansive world building that, left me in awe and wanting more. I just want to know what the heck is going on. Why are these characters in this world, how they are, and what's the larger world in this empire? So the book itself, as I mentioned, the main story that sets up early is our main character, Dinian, is a investigator apprentice. He joins this new investigator in his small town, Anna, and she's kind of the Benoit Blanc Knives Out character. She's the head investigator, and he works through her, for her, as the assistant. So she's the one kind of formulating the plans and the ideas and the concepts, and Din is out there kind of executing, talking to people, doing the actual investigations, while she's kind of at headquarters piecing it all together, doing what she does, while Din does what he does in the field. So he's kind of the field agent, she's the mastermind, and these two playing off each other was great. They are such great characters. Anna and Din are amazing. They're both awesome. I loved both of them by the end, and as the novel went on, I just loved them more and more. Din is this kind of quirky, plays by the rules investigator, because he's just still an apprentice, so he has some shortcomings of his own. Kind of confidence is like his first big job, his first big break. And then Anna is this eccentric investigator. She's the lead investigator, and her character is kind of like Benoit Blanc, where she kind of rubs others the wrong way, just her attitude, because she's their investigator, sort of like internal affairs. So they investigate the empire, which is this empire in this fantasy world setting, where the coolest part is the empire is, yes, it's a collection of like a Roman Empire keeping everything together, but the reason they come together is because they have Titans. Yes, like they use the name just like Titans, and that's the subtext of the series, which is the shadow of the Leviathan. So these Titans are massive, like sea creatures. It's really kind of hard to understand what they actually are. They describe them a little bit, not to give spoilers, but they're these massive, ginormous, like Titans, like Attack on Titans, and they're just like Attack on Titan. There's walls, and there's city walls, and there's different layers of walls, just like Attack on Titan, of where kind of the seats of power are and where the regular folk are as they're closer to these disastrous, ginormous Titans, which have interesting properties, and that's the other cool thing. So the Titans, like the Titan blood, like when a Titan dies, it causes nature to grow. So the blood of these creatures, which we're not told yet where they come from, why they come from, what the heck is happening in this world. It's just this fantasy world. But the blood of these creatures is then used by the different guilds and the different trades in this world to augment humans. So this is the other cool aspect, which gives it almost a science fiction twist, because like some of the things that happens that were sort of told like in a sci-fi novel, it would be through technology. In this novel, it's through not magic, but through kind of like the chemical, I guess, magic of the Titan blood, which kind of fuels things. And it has a very botanical, like techno-botanical vibe going on, where one of the plot points is that there's different gates, and the gates are vines that are woven together, and you can have a key which opens the gates of vines because it has the enzymes that the plants can react to, and then they can sense it and they'll open. So it's this really interesting world where there's like contagions and people are worried about diseases, but it's also medieval, and there's like farming, and they're farming and growing these crops that have medicinal purposes because there's this botanical like threat and advantage that they have going on. And there's augmented humans, which are our main characters. So not really a spoiler because it's revealed early on. Din is an engraver, so he has an augmentation. This is like kind of the computer, like android sort of perfect memory. So his augmentation is he can see a scene and he engraves it in his mind and he'll never forget it. So then he can recall it when he's doing investigation. Kind of like, he has photographic memory, and he has some other, if you've read this, like there's some other like quirks with his engraving and how it works, and that are positives and negatives as we learn later. But so this makes him an investigator. And then you have other clans, like the soldiers have augmentations for like extra strength and extra durability. So, warrior class kind of have their augmentations. Then you have other, like the thinking class have brain augmentations. And then we start learning about like the aristocracy, and they have augmentations that are pretty crazy. So we meet one of the aristocracy later, and it's very cool, like the things that she has done to her and kind of what's happened in the society with these augmentations, and like the world structure of enhanced humans. Again, in a science fiction novel, you would find this commonplace for like synthetics, but in this novel, it's purely fantasy, but it had a lot of echoes, the elements of science fiction, but just with the explanation. The MacGuffin is that it's through the magic power of plants or magic, and not necessarily through technology like this perfect memory or enhanced senses, enhanced sight, which things you would see in a sci-fi novel that, she has augmented eyes. In this one, she has augmented eyes because of her enhancements through this organic enhancements that they use in this world. So if you're a fan of science fiction, I think you'll enjoy it. If you're a fan of fantasy, you'll enjoy it. If you're a fan of thrillers and mystery, you'll enjoy it. If you're a fan of anime like Attack on Titan, you'll enjoy it. There's just so many things to like about this novel. I, again, absolutely loved it. Robert Jackson Bennett, I hadn't read his other novels, but hearing about this one, I think I'd heard of City of Stairs, one of his early novels, which also has like a really crazy, kind of mind-bending, more sci-fi concept. So I think that's his genre here, where he's comfortable writing kind of science fiction stories. This one has a lot of the science fiction elements just wrapped in a little more fantasy setting, like a medieval kind of culture, but with science fiction elements and devices and tropes you would see in sci-fi, but with the cool, fantastical setting of Titans. It's so cool, and there's so much, not to be too spoilery, like the origin of the Titans. I really want to know what's going on. I love the characters. There were, of course, some negatives. There's some slow parts sort of in the middle where they're doing investigation, but as they investigate the actual story, I know I'm talking about the larger world, but there is a main like murder mystery plot which we're introduced to in chapter 1. So as they're investigating this murder by botanics and like what's happening here. Some of the not early parts I did kind of zone out, like I guess it's about the 1/3 mark when they start doing heavy in the investigations, but then around the halfway mark, once they do the initial investigations out of the way and we kind of start delving into more of the just the twists and turns of who's done it and what's going on and earlier things and who's moving where, why, and as we start learning about the larger world. And that's what kept me drawing back to it, was I wanted to hear, like, yes, I want to know about the story and who killed who, why they killed it, what are the grudges, but as we learn about the characters, they have their own backstories, which were very interesting. I love learning the little bits and pieces here and there about Anna. I love learning about Din's past and what drew him to where he is, what drew the Empire together. We're given hints of Empire, and there's some like philosophical ramblings from not ramblings but discussions from Anna of she'll quiz Din on what is Empire, and it made me think of novels like Foundation, where you have Empire and it's this large empire and why do they exist, who they exist for. So tackling some really interesting issues and ideas, and everything just worked. It was such a blend of genres that absolutely worked. It's fast paced, it's an easy read, even though yes, it's a mystery, so you are following along and trying to see what's going on. It's not trying to trick the reader because there's so much else going on. So yes, you're trying to figure out what's happening, but you're also just dealing with all these other, like the Leviathan attacks and all this other intrigue and the characters, that it felt like like Knives Out. So it just moves along quickly. You have your master investigator Anna, who's the like Benoit Blanc character that's just lovable and eccentric, and then you have Din out doing his thing, and it just it all works. It's great. It's loved it. 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10. A super great read, one of my favorites of the year, easily so far. A really great time. And the second book recently came out in 2025, and I think there's a third one still being written. So I'm really excited to read the next book in the Shadow of the Leviathan series and continue on the adventures of Anna and Din. So thanks for watching this review of Robert Jackson Bennett's The Tainted Cup, and have a great day.